Hey, it's Dan the Mortgage Man, and I always get asked a question, and it's regards to how much house do you qualify for? Stick around, I'm going to show you the answer. Okay, so I get asked the question all the time, how much house can I qualify for, or what's the maximum purchase price I can look at? Now, I'm shooting this video for both my real estate or realtor clients as well as for my clients who are looking to buy a house, because people oftentimes want to know what's the maximum sales price that they should be looking for, when in actuality, when you qualify for a mortgage, you qualify for a maximum monthly payment, not necessarily a maximum sales price, okay? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of show you in a little more detail kind of how all of this works. So bear with me here. I'm going to try to do something a little more high tech here. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to start to show you kind of some of what goes on behind the scenes so that you can start to understand the math there, okay? You qualify based on a monthly payment, not necessarily, if you will, a specific sales price, okay? So what we've got is, a borrower's monthly income, okay? The amount of monthly income is going to drive what your debt to income ratio is. So like in this example, I'm just assuming that we've got, let's say, $4,000 a month in monthly income, okay? We're going to assume that, in this case, you've got a student loan payment of about $250, and let's just say a car loan payment of about $350, okay? Now, what happens is the amount of house that you qualify for is driven by really what's known as a debt to income number or a debt to income ratio, okay? And, the typical debt to income ratio is probably, on the top end is probably somewhere between 45 and 50%. Generally, a lot of times for a conventional loan, you can be capped at about 45%. We have started to see some loans go through with debt ratios as high as 50, and in an occasional loan that's a little bit more than 50. And an FHA scenario, you see probably anywhere from 45 to 55 as far as debt to income ratios that have been approved. Okay. What a debt to income ratio is, it's nothing more than a percentage of your before tax income, okay? So it is your earnings before taxes that we use to calculate your income, okay? So like in this scenario, $4,000 per month is, let's say, before tax earnings for a client. If we use a debt to income ratio of, let's just say, 50%, that means that 50% of that $4,000 would be a $2,000 maximum total of payments that client can have on a per month basis. Now keep in mind that $2,000 includes any outstanding debt, so any student loan payments or any car loan payments are included in that total. So if you took $2,000 minus, in this case, what amounts to, let's say, be $600 worth of payments, that means that the maximum monthly payment, assuming that we have a 50% debt to income ratio, would be $1,400. That would be the maximum monthly payment this client could qualify for. Now that $1,400 has to include property taxes, homeowners insurance, any mortgage insurance or PMI insurance if you've got that, any condo association fees if you've got those, as well as your homeowners insurance and property taxes, okay? So all of that stuff is calculated in that total housing payment or your new proposed housing payment, and that's factored in as part of your debt to income ratio, okay? So like in this scenario, what I wanted to do is just kind of give you some rough ideas. So if we took, let's just say, an FHA loan under a 30-year fixed rate, just using kind of an estimated interest rate of 4%, rates could be higher, they could be lower depending on, when you qualify for a mortgage. But using an FHA loan at a 45% debt to income ratio, and then using kind of an estimated millage rate for property taxes, okay? And we're going to come back to that because your property taxes on the house that you are buying makes a big difference as to the amount of house that you can qualify for, okay? So if we're using, let's just say, 30 mils for property taxes, that means that in this scenario, that client could qualify for a house of about $170,000, assuming a 3.5% down payment, okay? That would be the maximum that they could qualify for, assuming that we're at a 45% debt to income ratio, assuming that the interest rate's at 4% and our property taxes are at 30 mils, okay? Now let's dial it in a little bit more. Let's say we're still at 4% on FHA loan. We're still using a 45% debt to income ratio, but now my property taxes, instead of being at 30 mils, they're now at 40 mils, okay? And you can have these differences, right? So you oftentimes will see property taxes are higher when a property is located within, let's say, the city limits of an area as opposed to being in one of the townships. There are some areas where property taxes are a lot lower than other areas, but it can make a difference in the amount of house you qualify for. So like in this case, we're at 40 mils for property taxes versus 30 mils. Okay, so instead of qualifying for a $170,000 house, now you only qualify for a $160,000 house. Did you catch that? Right? Interest rate's still the same. Still qualifying at the same debt to income ratio, but my only difference is property taxes. So if I were to answer your question, how much house do you qualify for? In this scenario, given the fact that the property taxes are at 30 mils, you qualify for $170,000. But the minute my property taxes go to 40 mils, I go to $160,000. So the maximum sales price you qualify for can depend on a number of variables, right? This is just making some general assumptions as far as homeowners insurance too, because your homeowners insurance can impact the amount of house you qualify for. Where your property is located can impact what your homeowners insurance cost is. So there's all of these variables. So if I across the board said, hey client or hey agent, John Smith qualifies for $170,000, and then you go write an offer for $170,000, but it turns out that the property he's buying is located in an area that has higher property taxes, and maybe his homeowner's insurance is more expensive, now he doesn't qualify anymore. So stop asking the question of how much house do I qualify for, and start asking the question of how much is the maximum monthly payment I can qualify for. Because at the end of the day, this can be impacted by this. It can also be impacted by changes in interest rates. It can also be impacted by the amount of down payment you have, right? Because in this scenario, this client could still buy this house, but now they've got to have a bigger down payment in order to get that done. So stop asking the question as to how much house do I qualify for. Start asking the question, what's the maximum monthly payment I can qualify for? Too often, I've seen clients and agents get burnt because they don't understand the difference. And if your lender's not giving you the difference, you're working with the wrong lender. Truth is, if you're not working with me, you're probably working with the wrong lender anyways. My name is Dan Moralez. You can reach me at 616-931-4629. My NMLS number is 709729. And I'm going to shoot some more videos because I think it's helpful for both clients and agents alike to really understand that there's a lot more that goes into this than what meets the eye. Have a good one.